Good morning. You caught me chomping on my morning biscuit. Never mind. Here we are. Keith Hayes, Mirror Television, broadcasting from the White Hart Hotel in Lewes, East Sussex, but broadcasting to the country and to the world. Not huge audiences anywhere, but substantial audiences and growing as our programs get meatier and we bring more and more experts and attractive people to the screen from all parts of the world. We normally, very rude of me, but still, I don't have a swig of coffee while I'm at it. Actually, the coffee is essential. Most people know I got Parkinson's and it dries out the mouth. Some people will say, thank God for that. But I do need a remedy from time to time. And I suppose the time is going to come when they're going to carry me off the screen and somebody else will take my place. But for the moment, you just have to put up with me. I'm glad to be with you. It's sort of fun. People say, for God's sake, Keith, you're almost 84. Why do you get up at 5 o'clock, 5:30 in the morning at your age? The fact is, I enjoy being with you. I like being with you. And the staff at this hotel are absolutely fantastic. When I get in, I'm well looked after. I'm given coffee, a little chat. Make sure everything is there for me. A man could not be luckier. So why change until I have to? That day isn't too far away, I guess. Until I have to. All right. Now we've got an interesting day for you. At 10 o'clock, we have our usual contributor, Dr. Mark Maybe, on education. And at approximately 20 to 11, the Pixie is back. John Henry, with his usual funny bits, thus continuing his broad history of humour in this country, based on Max Miller. 9 o'clock, Stuart Dolby makes a welcome return with a former colleague who worked with him in the Middle East to analyse what the hell is going on in Gaza. Now, there we start with the news headlines, because what's going on in Gaza is almost inevitable, but a tragedy, an absolute tragedy, a human tragedy, an economic tragedy, a global tragedy. So let's go to the newspapers and let's see what they have to say today. The Eye, 100 skilled sheltering at a hospital as Israel denies an airstrike. Well, we're going to get into the denial game now. Palestinian officials say up to 500 people have been killed in a hospital airstrike in Gaza. The Eye reports, it says the Israeli military claims the explosion was caused by a Hamas rocket that fell short. Eyewitnesses say many children are among the dead and wounded. It says it also reports that Chancellor Jeremy Hunt is considering a rethink over the pensions triple lock. Oh dear. The Guardian. Jesus. 100 feared dead in Gaza hospital strike. A photograph on the front page of a woman holding her child, who probably is 1 or 2. A woman holding a child, both injured by the blast at the Al-Ahli hospital in Gaza, are pictured on the front page of The Guardian. It reports that Israel and Hamas have both blamed each other. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has declared 3 days of mourning, it reports. Daily Mail. Hospital horror. Who's to blame? Amid scenes of devastation, Gaza officials claim Israeli airstrike on a hospital killed at least 500. But Israel insists the blast was caused by a misfired rocket from jihad militants. A photograph of the Al-Ahli hospital in Gaza, which is on fire, is carried on the front page of the Daily Mail. The newspaper says Israel and Gaza militants were blaming each other over the explosion, which it says may have cost 500 lives. Around 5,000 Palestinians were sheltering at the hospital, it adds. The Times, outrage at hospital attack. Strike kills up to 500 in Gaza. Israel denies responsibility and blames jihadis. Biden flies to Middle East. Wow. If it gets Biden out of the White House, you can tell just how serious things are. The Times leads with the explosion at the hospital in Gaza, reporting that Israel has denied responsibility. The paper says the claim that Israel bombed the hospital has prompted condemnation across the Middle East and protests in the West Bank. Elsewhere, on its front, the Times says the NHS is being urged to offer routine menopause Mo checks for women after they turn 40. The Daily Express. Hundreds die in huge blast at Gaza hospital. Officials have claimed up to 800 people died in the blast at the Al-Ahli hospital in Gaza. The Daily Express says it carries an image of the hospital in flames and one of an injured woman and child. It has some sports news on the front page. It says England football team is on its way to Euro 2024. That is, after they beat Italy 3-1 last night. I think it was here at Wembley. The Financial Times is Gaza Health Ministry says hundreds killed in Israeli airstrike on hospital. The World Health Organization strongly condemns the attack on the hospital in Gaza. The newspaper also quotes the Palestinian Red Crescent as saying hundreds of people have died in the blast. Elsewhere on its front, it covers a meeting between Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping in Beijing on Tuesday, and includes a photograph of the pair together. The Daily Mirror. This must end. 500 feared dead as the Gaza hospital is hit. The Mirror says the crisis in the Middle East must end, as it shows a photograph of a child injured in a blast at the Gaza hospital. It also shares what it says is the last text message from a British mother confirmed to have died in Hamas attack on southern Israel. The Daily Telegraph. Biden visits Israel as hundreds die in the Gaza hospital. It also has a subheadline, MI5 warns of a UK terror threat from Iran. The Telegraph looks ahead to Joe Biden's visit to Israel. The United States president is expected to arrive on Wednesday and meet Israeli President Benjamin Netanyahu, while UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak is expected to travel to the country this week. It also carries a warning from the head of MI5 over concerns about Iranian-backed terror attacks in the UK in the wake of the Israeli-Gaza war. The Sun. Inside horror house where Brit girl 13 was slain. The Sun reveals a photograph of the inside of a house in the Israeli village of Bein, where it says a British teenager and her mother were killed by Hamas. It also carries a photograph of Yahel, aged 13, and her mother, Leanne. The Metro. Gaza hostage ordeal. Bring my baby home. A mother begging for the life of her daughter, a hostage from a music festival in Israel, makes the Metro front page. She's pictured holding up a photograph of a 21-year-old Mia, who was seen in bandages in a video put out by her captors. The Daily Star. Never, ever goes along in the mainstream, but it hasn't today. Britain on the red alert over wonky walking terrorways. Invasion of the hairy clawed nippers, it says. Chinese crabs carrying up to 1 million eggs are blamed for scaring our cheery native crustaceans and eating them out of house and home. The Daily Star warns Britain is facing an invasion of furry-clawed Chinese crabs, which it says are marching sideways across the country, eating everything in their path. It was bound to happen. Whichever side is responsible, it was bound to happen. And it's a tragedy. Absolute tragedy. What is it? You can't make an omelette without breaking eggs. In this particular case, Hamas started the omelette. The Israelis are picking up the frying pan, and between them, they are costing huge toll in human life. A huge toll. So let's just finish off by looking at a little more in depth behind the Behind the headlines, the front page. And what we should do is we should mention is in sports. We've had some rather good news, except from the cricketers. We had England's remarkable victory over Fiji in the Rugby World Cup. And last night in the Euro playoffs, England beat Italy 3-1, and according to reports, beat them relatively easily. The Daily Express says hundreds of Palestinians are feared to have been killed after a massive explosion tore through a hospital in the Gaza Strip. The Guardian says the building was packed with people injured by previous airstrikes and others seeking shelter from Israel's bombardment. According to the Times, the strike was caught on camera and sent blast waves through the hospital forecourt. It's among several papers to note that it's the deadliest such incident in the history of conflict between Israel and its neighbors. The front page of the Daily Mirror says the Middle East crisis is spiraling with the headline, "This must end." Who is to blame? Asks the Daily Mail, as it highlights both Israel and what the paper calls Gaza militants, offering competing explanations for the blast. The Daily Telegraph says President Biden is due to arrive at the war's most dangerous point, and reports that Rishi Sunak will also visit Israel on Thursday. The paper says the bombing will raise fears that Iran will enter the conflict, and cites reports saying the US is considering military strikes on Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, which is backed by Iran. The main editorial in the Times says Mr. Biden is returning the US to a mire in the Middle East, where successive US governments have become bogged down in fruitless attempts to promote peace. But the paper says the president may still be able to play the role of peacemaker and avoid a wider war. The Sun leads on pictures of a ransacked bedroom in a house in southern Israel, where it says a British woman and her daughter were killed by Hamas. The paper's reporter touring the scene describes a horror house littered with bullet casings, trashed furniture, and the remains of the family dog still in the living room. A grieving relative tells the Sun the images will tell the world what the terrorists did. The Financial Times reports that Sir Keir Starmer is facing a growing mutiny from Labour councillors who are demanding the party change its stance on the conflict between Israel and Hamas. The FT says there's pressure from council leaders, influential Muslim party members, and those on the left wing after Sir Keir gave, according to the paper, his unqualified support for Israel to defend itself in the wake of the mass massacres by Hamas. It reports on a meeting on Monday night at which councillors are said to have warned senior figures in Labour they have only a day or two to alter course before the situation becomes unmanageable. And the Daily Telegraph reports on a study suggesting that fast walkers live longer than dawdlers. Researchers at the University of Leicester, analysing health data from 400,000 British people, found that those who consider themselves brisk walkers are 25% less likely to die of cancer than their slower counterparts. The authors say the effect was most pronounced in older men, and walkers should pick up the price where possible. Well, that's the news headlines. And I suppose, really, it was inevitable that we were going to get something similar to this. Mouth washed out. War, conflict, always produces something that everybody holds up their hands and says, well, this wasn't meant to happen. But it did. It always happens. What do they expect? You let off a rocket and somebody will get hurt. And that's exactly what happened here. Whether, in fact, it's an Israeli rocket or an Israeli plane incursion, or whether it is Hamas letting loose a rocket which was rogue and turned its back on its intended target. Does it matter? But what upsets me, appalls me, is the way everybody rushes to take sides. Why can't we all say conflict is conflict and it should stop? Why can't we all say this should not happen again because we won't let it happen again, and it doesn't matter whether it's a Palestinian supporter, an Israeli supporter, an Iranian mullah, a United States president, a British MP. It doesn't matter who it is, but I don't hear one voice saying this is all wrong. This has to stop. Oh, you hear them temporarily. It's, oh, yeah, you shouldn't be firing rockets. But what happens even in the streets? When something like this happens, people take sides. Who are these people who take sides? Who are these people that say, oh, Israel's got every right? Who are these people that say Hamas can do what it likes to defend itself? Who are they? Well, I'll tell you who they are. They're people like you and me, who get hot under the collar when we think that something close to us or dear to us has been violated. We have a knee-jerk reaction. We don't think in terms of neutrality. Let's stop this savage way of living. This savage place that the world has become. This savage situation which should never arise in the first place. Oh no. Oh well, what we do, all of us, we say, well, I mean, the Israelis is, goodness gracious me, look at what happened. There's no wonder they're hitting back, and so they should. Or, well, Palestine has been put upon by Israel for God knows how long, and it's reasonable that it performs these acts of violence. It is not reasonable. It is not reasonable for anybody, either side. And I'm not a peacenik. I recognize that we need armed forces. I recognize that we are going to lock horns. But this sort of savagery, no, sir, no, ma'am. We should not condone it. But you'll say, we're not condoning it. No, you are condoning it. You're condoning it when you decide to take sides. You're condoning it when you talk about Israel, or you talk about Hamas, you talk about the conflict, you talk about whatever's going on. Stuart is here. He is coming along at 9 o'clock.
No, sorry. Just text from David. I can only make 9:30.
Okay. Unfortunately, that will cut you short by about 15 minutes, but still, good. Okay. So you're coming along at 9:30.
Well, I'm here, aren't I?
Do you want to come and? Well, come down and discuss the headlines with me then.
Well, okay. Now, think about the Hamas, you know.
Yeah. Okay. No. Look, we're talking to them, Stuart. So come and sit down.
All right.
Coming from take your coat off, get your gin and tonic, and come and sit down. Oh dear, I do. No, I don't.
Well, you've got an in at this place.
But what I do like is, and I was saying to our colleague Harry in France yesterday, the reason I like going there is to have a brandy in my coffee, breakfast coffee in the morning. Come on, sit down.
No, I'll do two things. I've got a phone. David said that's fine, and secondly, I've got to give you the email.
Oh, right, okay. Right, we can do that, and if it can't go to 9:30, we've got time. Because it is now 8:27. So in an hour, Stuart will be along with his colleague, and they will discuss, from a very authoritative point of view, I may say, what's happening in the Middle East. In the meantime, I'm waxing lyrical by saying that such savagery should not be condoned by anybody. And it doesn't matter whose fault it is. The whole fault is that the whole bloody thing should not have transpired this way. But it is mankind that has created these situations, and it is mankind that needs to stand accused. J'accuse the people that I live with. Because I can't in any conversation find anybody who doesn't take a position on this. But it is not really a situation where positions should be taken. But try telling that to 98% of the population of the world. It's the same as the silly hatred that has crept into British politics. He's a Tory, so he's a toff. What daft, silly nonsense! And you hear it from on the social media, on the local social media. You'll see it from people in this town. He's a Tory, so he's a toff. And then you'll hear the other. He's Labour, so he's a commie. What absolute arrant nonsense! You stupid people! But you feed situations like this, and yet you'll go tut. This shouldn't happen. Well, it happens partly because of you. And it's about time that we started to open our minds and to discuss things and talk them through. Yeah, Stuart just said, oh, blimey. But you know, there are things which really stick in my craw. And the trouble is that those people who fuel this are the people that go around pretending that they are virtuous. Well, they're not. And they should look at themselves and look into themselves. You know, it's funny, but some police chiefs in the United States use what they say is zero tolerance. They will not stand for any petty little crime because they say that feeds the bigger scene, the bigger crime scene. And I think there is some merit in that. And the trouble is that every time you utter a hate word or you blame somebody else at this level, is that fuels discrimination at a wider and higher level. It's 8:30. It's the 18th of October, 2023. We can expect rain. I think that is it starting to rain?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, let's just take a look at the forecast. Here we go. Right, today it's going to be reasonably warm. It's going to be 18 degrees, but gusty winds and heavy rain. Yeah, it's at 9 o'clock, which is half an hour away. Oh, excuse me. We can expect rain. It's only going to be 13 degrees, so still quite cool. It warms up as the morning goes on. And actually, we have a period of just cloud before it starts to rain again about 1 o'clock this afternoon. And then it rains solidly throughout the afternoon, throughout the evening, throughout the night. And actually, it doesn't stop raining, according to the forecast, until midnight. Tomorrow is the same. Friday the 20th, we can expect rain. Saturday the 21st, we can expect rain. Sunday the 22nd, we expect rain. And actually, Saturday is going to be very cool. It's going to be down to 12. Sunday 13. And then it starts to warm up a little again next week on Monday, where we're going to have some thunderstorms on Monday, but we're going to have some bright periods, and it'll reach 16 degrees. It's going to rain all next week as well, but with some sunny periods, and it'll reach about 17. That's the weather forecast. Now, I'm going to take 5 minutes. No, I'm going to take 3 minutes, and then I'm going to pull in Stuart, and we'll have a little chat about some of the headlines. We won't take away from his in-depth report, which he's going to do at 9:30. But I think he's gone off to get his secret gin and tonic. All right, we'll. There we go.
Hi, David. It's Stuart.